Good evening, my fellow Toastmasters and guests. Good evening. As I look around the room, I see people who I've met for the first time tonight. But I can also see some people that I've met before. And one person who I've met before is Kojo Ohene. And I met him before he grabbed that banner here, the presidency of Trojans. But how did he get to be president of Trojans? When you want to do something, when you want to do something new, as you'll find out later, all you have to do is look for a role model. And so he came to Harrovians when I was the president. He wanted to find someone who was brave, someone who was intelligent, someone who had gravitas, someone who had authority and leadership. He came to Harrovians. He took one look at me, left, and never came back. But I have tracked him down, and tonight I'm here to do this workshop for you. I'm going to do a workshop on creating and remembering your speech. Now, I'm going to use a device called, I'll explain to you about a device called a memory map. Now, this is a blank memory map. And during the evening, you're going to see this memory map being completed, being filled in. What I'd like you to look at the moment is just to take note of the fact that there are 6 main locations on the map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to explain what that's about now, but take note of that at the moment. What I'm going to show you now is the map as it's going to be completed when I have spoken. Back to the blank. Just to intrigue you there a little bit. What you'll see is that as I'm speaking, the map being completed. And this map, the completed version of it, forms a template and tells me exactly what I'm going to be saying this evening. And by the end of the evening, you too will have completed, or partially completed, a memory map for a talk that you could give. So, what am I going to be talking about tonight? The first thing you do with a memory map is you look for the central location. And tonight, I'm going to be telling you how you can use a memory map for your speech, for your talk, and for your presentation. So, when you're speaking in front of a crowd, how many of you have felt a little bit of nerves, a bit of adrenaline coming through, this sort of thing? Often it's like, can you remember what it is you're going to be talking about? This guy here is a Toastmaster. What am I going to say? I can't remember what I'm going to say. How am I going to get over this? Well, myself and Tony Lazar and Madhu Sohel started a company earlier on this year, which is called the Speaking Well and the Learning Well. And within that, we developed this system of memory mapping to help people do exactly that, remember what it is they need to say, what they want to say, whether that's in a talk, presentation, speech, within Toastmasters, at work, outside in the community, whatever it happens to be. So, we all develop habits in life. And as you are Toastmasters, you will develop particular speaking habits. Those habits form or enable you to do the things that you do every single day. And the question that comes up is, can you change your habits? Now what I'd like to do is just ask you to do something first off. Could you all just clasp your hands together? Like this. Okay, like that. Okay. Some of you would have put your left thumb on top of your right thumb. And others would have put your right thumbs on top of your left. And if you swap over, you'll find it feels uncomfortable if you do it the other way. And that's because your brain is wired in a particular way. You've got used to doing that over the years. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is that scientists have analysed this particular behaviour in terms of thumbs. And they found that if you put your left thumb on top of your right thumb, then you have a large propensity to be a brilliant speaker. But if you put your right thumb on top of your left thumb, then you are in fact sexually attractive. I can see half the audience swapping over. Prizes. Can you teach an old dog, like me, and everyone else, new tricks? Well, the answer is yes. Within your brain, you have something like 100 billion cells, 100 billion neurons. which means that you have a huge capacity for learning and for changing the habits. The brain is about the size of two clenched fists put together. It weighs about 1.4 kilograms. And in fact, those cells, when they connect together, when they form those connections, that is the thing that gives you your memories. That's the thing that gives you your abilities. All those connections. There's something like 100 trillion connections created by these 100 billion cells. So it means that you have a massive and huge capacity for learning and for changing the ways that you currently do things. So the question is, if you want to remember what it is you want to say, what should you do? Well, I mentioned role modelling earlier on, and if you've got to learn something new in life, then the thing to do is you don't need to have to reinvent the wheel. You can see what someone else has done. And of course, if you want to remember something, perhaps what we should do is look to see what the world memory champions have done. Perhaps they can teach us. Perhaps they can point to what it is we should be doing. Now, there is a world memory champion called Dominic O'Brien. He's been the world memory champion, and this is not a picture of Dominic O'Brien. You might recognise this is another character. Dominic O'Brien's been world memory champion something like 8 times. Now, a few years ago, he was invited to go onto the Jonathan Ross show. And Jonathan, of course, wanted him to carry out some sort of memory feat to show how great he was at remembering things. So he gave him a book. He gave him a book by Gillian Cooper called Polo. And this book, Polo, has 766 pages. And what Jonathan asked him to do was to remember the first word on each page. That's 766 words. So, by coincidence there, perhaps about the number of words that you might have in a Toastmaster typical speech of about 6 or 7 minutes, something like that. So, the day came, and Dominic went to the studio, and the audience was there, and they called out different words, and you remember which pages, and they called out different pages, and you remember what words, and he got every single one of those things right. And everyone thought it was fantastic, apart from one person in the audience, who shouted out, "It's all a fix, I don't believe it, it's all a fix." And Dominic said, "Well, if you turn to page 703, see what words you see there." Frantic rustling of pages. There, at the top, page 703, was the word fix.